Hi everyone, and welcome to the latest soldering video. Now I've had quite a few people request lately if I could show sort of how to remove some of the most common parts on your boards. Now, as I've done quite a few videos where I sort of show you how to fit these, yeah, it seems a good idea to show you how to take some of them off. So later on in the video, as you can see in the middle of your screen now, I've got this QFP, so I'll show you how to remove sort of this large component later. So I'm going across to this other board and I've got some QFNs down there to show you how to take them off. I've actually got these boards stacked up on top of each other, which yeah, I wouldn't really normally do. Yeah, as you can see, I've got a large sort of J2 blue connector, where it's about 5 pins, so I've got a good method for getting them out. So I'll show you that later. I'm coming across this other board and I've got some electrolytic capacitors. So I'll show you a couple of different ways of them. There's a real good trick for getting them out if you haven't seen it. So yeah, hopefully I'll show you that later. Now coming over to this board over here, got a regulator, so I'll show you how to take one of them off. Now, as you can see in the middle of the screen now, I've got an RN19 resistor network. It's close by to that large black plastic connector, so I'll show you how to protect your plastic later when sort of using a hot air gun nearby. So that's a good thing to know if you sort of haven't sort of seen that. Yeah, I've got various other common parts like an SO8 IC, capacitors, sort of resistors. So basically, yeah, this is some of the most common parts you will find, and hopefully yeah, the video can help you out take them off your boards. So what I'm going to do is get straight on with the first component, and hopefully you enjoy it and find it useful, and it can help you out. So we'll move on to the first part now. Right, so we're going to start these videos off with a real common device. Got this 0603 capacitor down here, C32. Now to get these off, you basically do this method up to sort of 1206 size. Works really well. Just get your iron, just basically add some solder both ends. Yeah, just add some solder both ends. The component will just pull away really easily like that. Then you just solder. So get some solder braid, clean your pads up. I always like to clean the pads up before I fit a new device. And then just basically I'll just give this a quick wipe over, get the flux off, and then so if you need to fit a new device, it's ready to go. There you go, you've got two nice clean pads ready to take a new device, and that's an easy way to get sort of common parts off up to sort of 1206. So what I do beyond 1206, I'm just going to show you a method for that, and then yeah, anything sort of say beyond 1206, this next method's really good for that. So if you've got a hot air gun, that does sort of all the methods, but if you haven't got one of them, I'm just going to quickly move on to another method to hopefully help you out. Right, so following on from this 0603 size device just removed in the last video, I'm coming on to this rather large tantalum capacitor. Now, like I say, the last method works up to a point, say 1206, but beyond that, where I do see people sort of going end to end on this size device, and yeah, it doesn't really work. It can take ages, sort of potentially damage pads, because like I say, time to get one end to the other, first end's gone cold. So basically, what you want to do, just add some fresh solder just to both ends. Now, this is a method where if you haven't got a hot air gun, if you can get yourself a sort of cheap second soldering iron, and yeah, basically this will enable you to do any two pin devices, any sort of size. So just lift that off, it's so easy. So I've done a complete video on sort of 2 irons, the use of, and yeah, this will, like I say, this will enable you to get any size 2 pin device if you haven't got a hot air gun. A great method. Like I say, you can see there you've got no damage. I'll leave the flux on these pads just for the sake of the video. So this will sort of take you up to any size you want. You can also get soldering tweezers that some people like. I'm not really a fan, but yeah, I do know people who really like them, and that's another option to get 2 pin devices off. So basically you can use 1 iron for smaller components, 2 irons for any other size, soldering tweezers for that same size, or the hot air gun. So that's all your sort of 2 pin devices covered in them methods. So I'm now going to move on to sort of 2 different methods for taking, for instance, this SO8 IC. I'll show you sort of 2 different methods for that. So hopefully one of them will be useful for you. So move on to that one now. Right, so following on from the 2 pin devices we started videos with, the sort of tantalum capacitor, etc. I'm now going to show you the first of the methods to get this SO8 IC off. Now, even when with this method, I'm just going to show you a common heat gun. I'll show you a 2 soldering iron method after that. There's other methods you can do. You can cut the sort of pins at the shoulder. So sort of up here if you're careful. It's also chip quick. It's in a low melt sort of stuff that sort of stays sort of molten for longer, low melt solder. So basically with this, when I've got my heat gun, got it set to about 380 degrees. I've got my air about sort of 90. It's the air that you can hear in the background. So when I'm using the heat gun, I sort of tend to circle the area. Just don't concentrate on one sort of point. This shouldn't take too long, this device, because it's not joined underneath. It should start going fairly quick. The worst thing you can do is try and pull it off too early. Once you see the joints go shiny, it should start moving. Right, it's starting to get shiny now, so it's nearly going to come off. There you go. So that's lifted that off nicely. So what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to wick some of the solder off. I'm actually going to show you, this is actually homemade braid that I've got here. I sort of showed you how to make this in my last video. It works really well. So if you're ever stuck and you haven't got the proper stuff, it's a really good method to make your own. So once you've sort of loaded up the end of your braid, cut the braid off. Just start with just a fresh bit. So again, just put it on the pad gently. Just ease the solder away. You should end up with some nice clean pads. So there you go, got 8 nice clean pads. Just clean some of that flux off, just so you know, sort of see the end result. Like I say, I had this set to about 380 with the air about 100, so that's what I tend to do for these devices. So yeah, the only thing, just to sort of finish off quickly, like I say, if your device has got a heat pad, a thermal pad that's going to be on your board, you can check when you're fitting a new device, then you will need this method. So yeah, hopefully you sort of enjoyed that method, and you'll move on to the next part. Right, so following on from the previous method, where I've just used a hot air gun to remove one of these SO8 ICs you can see in the middle of your screen, I'm going to quickly show you another method that I like to use. If you haven't got a hot air gun, this is a great method. Basically, I'm going to use 2 soldering irons. Now, it's a really good method. You can cut these ICs off if you're careful. Basically, with 2 soldering irons, all you do, just try and do a small fillet up each side, just to sort of link the legs. Because these are quite spaced, it can take a couple of times before they're all linked. So I've got a nice fillet up each side. All you do, just bring your second iron into play. It's a good safe method this, if you're careful. I've used it a lot over the years. What you want to do, bring your second iron in. I try and just stand the IC up on its side. You can try and sort of lift it away if you if you feel confident. But basically I just try and lift it on its side, get hold of it with tweezers, and just lift it off. And basically you can just pull the excess solder off, and then yeah, just wick the pads flat with solder braid. So it's a good safe method if you're careful. So we do, take the excess off, the worst of it, get your solder braid, just clean them up properly. Yeah, when you use solder braid, try and cut the sort of loaded braid up, off the end, because once the braid sort of got a certain amount, it won't take any more. That's all you do, just clear the pads of the leftover solder, and just give it a quick wipe. Just get the worst of the solder off, the flux off during this bit. Hopefully you can see that sort of no damage, and yeah, there you go. You've got nice eight nice pads, all clean. Surrounding area is perfect, and so yeah, it's another good option to get SO8s off. You can also do this with sort of SO sort of 14s, 16s, etc. So yeah, if you haven't got a hot air gun, this is a good option. The only thing is, some of these sort of components will have a sort of heat pad underneath, thermal pad. So check your device sort of you're replacing, and if it has got one of them, you will need the hot air gun option. But if not, this is another good option to use. So anyway, following on from this one, I'm going to move on now to 2 good methods to get electrolytic capacitors off. So yeah, we'll move on to the first method of that one now. Right, so I'm quickly now going to show you how to do a couple of different methods to take these electrolytic capacitors off. So first of all, I'm going to take this C72 off down here. Now again, you can use a hot gun for this, or a heat gun. So if you haven't got one of them, I'll show you a sort of couple of good options to get these off. They can be quite tricky to get off these, especially the extra large ones, because the sort of pad underneath, or the track, goes right down into the centre. So the heat's got to travel a long way into the centre to sort of melt all the solder. First thing I do, just going to add some, so I'm going to use 2 soldering irons on this method. Just want to put a bit of fillet on each joint. Just bring the board back up. So yeah, just put a slight amount of solder. Just tin each leg. Really aid you when you're trying to get these off. Just get that back in focus. So what you want to do now, again, bring your second soldering iron in. Just place it on the joints, and these are going to take a few seconds for the heat to travel underneath to get to the desired sort of position, and these should start moving off. So just be patient, don't try and sort of take it off too soon. I can already see it starting to move. And that should just drag off in a minute once the heat's got to its point right along the track. So it does take a little while. Any minute that should start moving. There you go, you can just drag it off now. And basically you've got 2 unaffected tracks. So what I'll do, I'll just quickly clean them off. Then we'll clean them up just to show there's no damage. So this is a good option, but the extra large ones, this type of device, it's quite difficult to get them off. But I'm going to show you a really good trick in a minute to get them ones off. So again, I'll just give it a very quick wipe just to get the worst of the flux off. As you can see, you're left with 2 nice pads. Device has come off really well, so that's a good option to get these sort of devices off. Just yeah, 2 soldering irons. So yeah, that's one of the options. And so what I'm going to do now is going to show you a great trick to get the extra large ones of these off. I'm going to do it on this one here, sort of the one above, but this sort of next method works really well with any of this type of device, any size. So move on to the second. Right, so move on to the second method of getting these electrolytics off. Now, like I said earlier, this one works really well for the extra large ones, especially if you haven't got a heat gun. It's a really good way of getting them off. I was going to do one near the edge of the board, but I've decided to do this one in the centre, this C35. So what I've got here is I'm going to use a pair of basically step cutters, or they're sort of height cutters. Basically what do, you can actually twist these devices off. So you just grab your device, gently twist it each way, and eventually the sort of pins break in the centre, leaving just the sort of left over of the legs on the pads. So it works really well. Just gently twist it and you'll hear it snap. I can hear that snap now, that's gone. Just lift it off, just give it a... So basically what you do then, I'm just going to get the remainder of the pin off, what's left on the track. So it's a good option this, I've used it a lot, it's pretty safe. And like I say, if you haven't got a heat gun, this is a good way of getting the extra large ones off. So just quickly sort of take them off, and then we wick off the excess solder. Just bring the solder off now. As you can see, I've got 2 really tiny tracks going to them, but everything's looking really good, really clean. As you can see, I've got no damage at all. There's still some flux on there obviously, but I could clean that off. But just for this video, I won't, you know, that's I'll leave that on there. So like I say, it's a good option. You can also sort of, you know, but I hold the sort of legs down with sort of pliers if you want a bit of extra strength. But I find if you just twist them gently side to side like I showed, they come off really well. So anyway, that's another good option. So what I'm going to do now, put a few photos up with the methods and devices shown so far. Then I'll move on to some more devices in a second. so move on to the first video in the second half. This one's basically a guide. I'm going to take off RN19, but I'm going to show you how to protect your plastic parts that are nearby. So basically I've got this great foil tape. This is sort of sticky backed, but you can actually just use general sort of foil, and you can hold it down with sort of Captain tape if you can get some. So just basically lay that in place, just secure it down. I've actually got it slightly away from the connector behind. So what I'm going to do, just add a little bit of flux as always when I'm heat gunning, just to aid the solder, sort of melting easier. Normally this would come off pretty easy, and it can melt the plastic. But doing it this way, I'm sort of guaranteeing to protect the plastic component nearby. Basically circle the area as before. Just gently go around it and then concentrate on the device after a short time. Again, try not to take it off too early so you don't pull the pads off. Keep trying it and eventually it will come. So this one's probably on some kind of ground plane, so it's quite a tough device to get off. But just be patient. Well, there you go. So that's come off. So as you can see, all the pads are there. So what I'm going to do now is just quickly pull the foil away. In fact, if I didn't have that there, you see how easy this plastic melts. This is quite a soft plastic. I can already smell it burning. It's starting to melt at the top corner. Yeah, it's starting to go quite a lot now. Because some components can be really close to the plastic, and it can, you will definitely need this foil to protect it. So as you can see, I'll just try and get that face. So I've got quite a bit of melted plastic in there, sort of all the way up the sides, up to the top. So basically that's a sort of safety barrier fitting the foil. So say all the pads are good, but you've got the sort of damage on the plastic. If I sort of zoom in slightly on there, so you see quite a bit of damage sort of going up here. So basically you will get components even closer than this. Put the foil on there and that will definitely protect your parts. So anyway, we'll move on now to a QFN and I'll show you how to. Following on from the video, I've just showed you how to protect your sort of plastic connectors, etc. I'm going to take this QFN off. Basically that's this one here. Basically you will need a heat gun to sort of take these off. There's not really another option. I've seen people try and sort of apply soldering iron heat from around the back where the wires are, but yeah, it's not with great success. So this is basically how I would do it. Just add some flux around the joints again, like I always do. Got my heat gun again about 380 degrees, as in the last video. Got the air about 90. So basically it's a case of just circling the area again. So again, you don't want to take these off too early, so you'll protect your pads. But just keep circling. Because of the centre sort of thermal pad, these do take a little slightly longer. What I tend to do is circle the area and concentrate on the centre. Let's just try that. There you go, it's come off really easy. As you can see, all the pads are fine all the way up, sort of around that side, try and get the top. So you've got all clear pads, solders all come off perfectly. And yeah, if you wanted to, you could wick what's on there off to sort of put a new device, but basically that's how easy QFNs are. But because of that pad in the centre, you will need a heat gun for these. So yeah, I use a Quick sort of station. That's a sort of brand, Quick 861. It's a great model, and yeah, I've sort of done lots and lots of stuff with it. It never lets me down. So it's available from like Farnell RS or Somerset Solders. So yeah, anyway, what I'm going to do now, I'm going to move on to showing you a great way to get sort of 4, 5, 6 pin sort of connectors out. Right, I'm just going to show you a really quick way of getting some of your sort of through hole connectors out. Now this one's just a 5 pin device running along there. Now what some people do, they try and wick out every sort of pin from around its from around the barrel, get all the solder out. But sometimes the sort of pins can get stuck to the barrels, and you can sort of pull some of the barrels out. This is a method that I like to use occasionally. What I'm going to do, I'm going to add some flux first of all, just along the length of the connector. You can actually see the connector underneath the blue body. Now hopefully you should see that fall out in a minute. So what I'm going to do, I literally get a piece of wire and just join all these together. That will enable heat to go in all of them, and that's dropped straight out. As you can see, there's a connector. It's come straight out of the board. It's got no pad damage at all, and that's how easy it is. And then all we've got to do is wick them sort of holes out, and yeah, you're good to go. So instead of trying to wick out every pin individually, join them all up, piece of wire, run some solder along it. So this will work for sort of 5, 6, 7, 8 pin devices, 8 pin through hole connectors. So yeah, it's a really good option, and yeah, I think you'll quite enjoy this one. So anyway, I won't clean these holes out just for sort of speed the video up. So what I'm going to do now is move on to the last device. I'll show you how to get a QFP. So move on to the last part I'm going to show within these videos. Now right at the start of the videos I sort of said I'd sort of show a regulator being taken off. I'll probably do a follow up to this sometime, and I'll show a few more different parts within that, and I'll make sure I include that in that one. So basically I'm going to sort of show now how to sort of remove this QFP. So I'm right in the middle of your screen. So again, as always, get some flux added around the joints. This basically just will, like I said earlier, will aid the soldering sort of melting, the solder meltings quicker. Now I've got me hot gun here about 395. I've upped it slightly. I put a bigger nozzle on my heat gun, so hopefully I don't block out your view. So again, as always, circle the area, get some sort of warmth into the whole area around it. So I've got no plastic parts, so I don't have to do any foil protection. So what you want to do, when they go shiny, it's the time to sort of grab hold and start trying to lift it off. Just be patient. It's quite a large device, so it will take a fair while to come off. You can see the joints going shiny, so it should be ready to come off fairly soon. It's starting to move, so it's just about ready. Just try and lift it off without. There you go. So yeah, it's come off pretty cleanly. Let's try and zoom in on the joints so you can see that they're all still, the pads are all still good. So if you've got any, like I said before, if you've got any solder around the pads, wick it off really easily. And you can even make your own wick, as I sort of have made you a video. So that's it basically. Yes, that concludes these videos. Well, thanks for tuning in to all these. Hopefully it's all quite useful. And I'll be back soon with some more soldering videos. Until then, thanks a lot and take care.